Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hello from Hong Kong. So sorry if I appear a little sleepy. It's the middle of the night here, but I am so pleased to jump right in and have a great conversation with our guests today. So let's get started. Today we are talking about something that we've unfortunately all been dealing with, and we're all dealing with the same issue, which is the declining donor counts. So today we're going to learn about what Yale is doing to address this at the annual and leadership annual giving levels through volunteer engagement and community building. So we'll discuss how it's worked for Yale, why it's worked, and what Yale wants to focus on and continue to improve on moving forward. So our discussion today is meant to help generate ideas for this kind of universal challenge. So while Yale has been doing what Yale has been doing may or may not work specifically for you, we'll focus on the principles of what they've put into place, the experiments they've tried, and then the risks they've taken so that you might consider modifying to apply at your own institutions. So our guests today are Jocelyn Kane, and she leads the Yale Alumni Fund and Leadership Giving at Yale University, and Ed Sevilla, who volunteers as an executive board member of the Yale Alumni Fund and is also my very treasured colleague at Huron. So I am so pleased you've got their bios and the material if you're interested in reading up on them and their experience, but let's jump right in. Jocelyn, let's get started with you. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the scope of your remit, especially pipeline building with both Alumni Fund and Leadership Giving in your portfolio.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa and Ed. It's great to be here with everyone today. And I want to be clear that we have not found the unicorn to get donor counts to increase exponentially year over year, but we are trying our best. And we do feel like we're being innovative in securing the pipeline for the future health of the university. And that's really where I see my work at Yale coming into play. I am thinking about the pipeline for the next big comprehensive campaign for 2 decades from now. How do we make sure that there are enough people who are moving along within that pipeline, whether they're participatory donors now, they're loyal, they're giving every year, they have multiple connections to the university. So when their time comes to be a larger philanthropist, we're on their list. That's what's most important. And I think that that's what I've seen over the past 3 decades of doing this kind of work is that it wasn't really about US News and World Report. It's not about rankings. It's not about a vote of confidence, although that feels really, really good. It's about creating those relationships that carry us into the future. And that's what we're doing in both the Alumni Fund office and the Leadership Giving office at Yale.
Excellent. So can you tell us a little bit about those tools that you have in your portfolio and how you've applied them to address this larger challenge of decreasing donor counts?
Yes. Okay. So I must say that part of your question just got cut off.
So sorry.
But that's okay. But I think we're going to talk about what's kind of specifically happening in both offices at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. The
So,
tools that you have, tools that you're using.
exactly. So at Yale, the Leadership Giving and Alumni Fund offices are two separate units. And in the Alumni Fund, we have about 30 full-time employees who are working with volunteers as well as doing direct fundraising, handling all of our integrated direct marketing strategies and our stewardship programs. So it's really a very robust team that's working both behind the scenes and in the front line every single day. The key tools that we use in the Yale Alumni Fund are Give Campus. That's a really big one for us, and we were a very early adopter because of the VMS, the Volunteer Management System. And we really brought that to change the way we do business at Yale and to have a closer relationship with our volunteers that could really provide them with the information that they need on a daily basis to do their work. I was just looking in Give Campus today, and for Yale College alone, which is one part of the Alumni Fund, we today have 1,100 volunteers making 47,000 solicitations in Give Campus. And that's one tool. We also are using ThankView, which many people are using. We're texting, and we do have RNL Engage for our engagement center. And I would say that I say we have 30 people on the team, but we really have many more than that because while we centrally run the Yale College Alumni Fund, the Graduate Alumni Fund, and the Yale College Parents Fund, we also liaise with the 13 professional schools all around Yale, and we provide an umbrella of integrated direct marketing for them at no cost. We also provide Give Campus and any other resources that we have available centrally to them and help them to work with those resources. And then in addition, of course, we have over 2,000 volunteers if we're thinking about all of Yale University and frontline fundraising volunteers for annual funds. The Yale Alumni Fund is our brand, but we do have a mix of annual funds and alumni funds based on how the schools are using that language. And then in leadership giving, this is a newer department for Yale, and it was really put together as its own standalone department in 2016 as part of the strategic planning for the campaign that we're in. Previously, it had been a small leadership annual giving officer program, and many on the call will be very familiar with that because about 15 years ago, we were all thinking about that. How do we integrate more direct fundraising operations into annual fund programs? And what we found at Yale was that it was going to be much more successful if it was spun off to be its own standalone department, which now has much broader responsibility. It is not only raising annual fund gifts, it is raising gifts to many types of priorities at Yale, including scholarships and scholarship endowments, which are really our bread and butter. And that team has now grown to be 15, and that includes frontline officers, support team members, and leaders. And we're now covering the entire United States with both discovery work and portfolio work. So it's a mix of in-person, it's a mix of virtual work, whether it's Zoom or email or phone. And they're closing tons and tons of gifts, thousands of gifts each year. And they are looking at that gift range of kind of 10,000 or 50,000 if you're thinking about a 5-year commitment, up to 250,000. So it really is that prospect management band that's right before major gifts if you're thinking about how we do it at Yale specifically. So we have major gifts starting at 250,000. Now, of course, there's always some blended gifts and things may be higher or lower, but that's the strategy. And that's helping to build the future portfolios for our major gift, principal, planned giving officers, all the other departments. And especially for those who may have some type of wealth rating that we all know is incredibly important and that our research team has done such a great job putting together, but there's so many prospects. How do you get to them? How do you really do that discovery work that qualifies them as a real prospect at that range? And that's what this team is doing. It's really phenomenal. It's a very entrepreneurial approach, but it shows, I think, the forward thinking of Yale and also how we can make sure that we're getting to every single person that we think we should be in front of each and every year. And the key tools that we're using there really are EverTrue. We're leaning into EverTrue. We've been working with EverTrue for many years at Yale, and now we're leaning into them for especially around this discovery work to really have prospects or, discovery prospects flowing into people's dashboards to say, this is someone you should be thinking about. They just made a gift. They have a high engagement score. And that's something we can do over Zoom. Now, I say that like it's all simple and easy. We all know this is super complicated, and that's actually not really happening yet, but that's what we're striving for, is to get there so that we also know kind of who's on first for each person so that we can have people, especially in places like New York City or California, where we may have multiple officers, we kind of know who's doing what. And the other tool that we picked up this year because we were taking the lead from our colleagues in Major Gifts is Quiller, which is a proposal generator. And that's really great for us because then we can have templates that are right in our range and are really about what we're trying to accomplish. So we're thinking about those templates that are for high level annual fund gifts, scholarship endowments, reunion gifts, and we can use them over and over, and it gives us a really nice feel, and you can also track the analytics behind them.
That's great. So, again, many of us have different size teams, different resources available to us. How would you recommend places that have less resources
Yeah.
apply some of the things that you've been doing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I have worked other places. So I've worked at Yale, which is huge. Before this, I worked at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, which is mid-size. And before that, I worked at AFS USA in New York City, which is a high school exchange program. So I've worked at many different places and different sizes. And I think that the key to success is really about achieving the aspirational goals that you're setting with your leaders each and every year. And that's through collaboration. And I think when I think about partnering, that's where our success lies. We're either partnered, every single day we're partnering with someone. I might be partnering with Ed. I might be partnering with a colleague at another team. I might be partnering with someone in my own departments. Like that's what it's all about. And it's about partnering with key leaders who are interested and excited about the impact and success that the annual fund or that leadership giving or that certain gifts levels are really going to make on your institution. So for example, when I was at Trinity College, I started a new program where we had our chairperson of the board personally signed thousands of solicitations letters every single year. It was one person. We were raising millions of dollars through that one solicitation because they were taking the time to do that and they were excited about the immediate impact they were seeing. So now at Yale, we do that on a larger scale. We have a whole program through the summer where we are doing customized solicitation letters. Some of them I'm signing and it's $2,500. It doesn't all have to be at the highest level. We're doing them for young alumni to bring them into the pipeline. But it's like, who can you ask at your institution to partner with you to do more? And to get excited about that. And then they start to socialize all of that. They become one of your influencers on your campus or at your organization where they can then say, I'm doing this. It's really easy. And wow, it's so fun. And then you can start to think about how are those things changing the way you do your work? And is it necessary to bring in real tools that might help? Because I'll be honest, we would not have been bringing Give Campus to Yale if we didn't already have a robust volunteer fundraising program. It's very hard. This is like a cart horse thing, right? You can't really make the case to say, I'd like to put in, especially a technological resource here when I don't really know what it's going to do. And that's, I think, what's most difficult these days is technology is very expensive. It's incredibly complex. It's hard to implement. It takes many, many resources across your whole organization. So you have to kind of be sure, which isn't really an innovative process when you already have to be sure, but there's ways to test it out without using the technology. Are you able to recruit volunteers? Yes, no. Try that out for a couple of years. Put real person resources towards that. Track your analytics and then say, we think we have something really special here. How can we build a volunteer program? That's one of the hardest things to build. Yale really invented volunteer solicitations, and it was created by alumni, and we have held on to that. And we think about volunteers, we think about alumni, parents, friends, everyone is going through the Alumni Fund every single day as our partners. And that's not easy. So you have to start small and start where it works best for you. Another great place to start if you are at a university or college is in athletics. Places where there's team building and they already have these amazing networks. How can you learn from that or capitalize on those networks? So those are some things I always talk about with other colleagues and friends, that it's not about how much you're raising, it's that you're doing your best with what you have and you're thinking about how to do more with what you have, which is by in itself going to bring greater results. And I think then that starts to show your leadership that this matters. Pipeline building really matters, and you can't be short-sighted about it. It's hard to have hindsight sometimes and say, wow, if only we had thought about having volunteers 10 years ago. Well, think about it for the next 10 years. Like, what's going to happen in 10 years from now? What impact could you be making then if you started something now?
Absolutely. So you talked about that, building that robust pipeline, which is really the key to success. So what types of decisions have you made since you've come into your role,
Mhm.
and to really build that pipeline?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I was thinking about it because obviously I knew you were going to ask that. And so I've been at
Surprise.
Yale now over 14 years, and I've been in fundraising in annual giving for over 30 years. And so much has changed. And I think that when I came to Yale, some of the people that I worked with then are still here, and we're still thinking about the same kinds of things. But one thing that we did right away when I came to the Alumni Fund, which is where I came first, I came in as the head of the Yale College Alumni Fund, working in central development, but I was not yet managing director. And I remember working with some close colleagues, many of whom are still here, and saying, what are we doing here with volunteers? Let's talk about this. And we stripped away all of the hard work from our volunteers and we gave them all of the easy work. And I know that might sound counterintuitive, but think about that no matter who you're working with, even if you're talking about other campus leaders, people who are on your corporation or board of directors of your institution. You want to give them the easiest, most satisfying work that also has an impact. And what's that? Reactivation and renewals so that people get excited and they see success, because there's nothing worse than being a volunteer and saying, wow, thanks for this cold call list. I got zero returns. And that's what we were seeing because we had we just needed to refresh things. And we started giving the harder work to the staff. And that's our job, right? And we know how to do that. And we know how to have difficult conversations. And I think that's really lasted. And that's then in concert with Give Campus, which came several years later after I had then become managing director. And we were thinking about this For Humanity campaign and how we were going to get ready there. Then, we were kind of set up for success there because we knew that we had volunteers who were really embedded in our success every year, not just embedded in our work every year. And then we were able to build out Give Campus for every professional school at Yale that has a volunteer fundraising cohort, our reunion giving partners, as well as the Parents Fund. And next up is actually athletics. So, it's one of those things that you kind of keep building on, but you have to make some decisions that can be hard. But volunteers also like knowing the metrics. So we started sharing things such as a volunteer has double the return rate of anyone else. Like you're going to have 50%, it's just true. Like if we're having a 20% response rate, you're going to get 40. And if we're lagging behind on reactivations, we can go out and say, don't forget, after 2 years, we have to think of that as bringing in a brand new donor again. Like, can you help us here? So we're working together as a team. And then all of our direct marketing is laying on top of that. The other thing that we have done so well, really since 1890, is that we have a really great hierarchy, which includes a board of directors, which is not fiduciary, and an executive committee and they do not require any qualification except that you are a volunteer for the Alumni Fund. There is no giving component. It really is about giving people the opportunity to have leadership roles and learn more about what's happening at Yale, which we hope then disseminates into their entire Yale network, not just who they're soliciting. So why don't I bring in Ed here, who can talk a little bit about that, because Ed is one of our key leadership volunteers, and I think you'd love to hear his perspective on this too.
I appreciate that, and thanks, Jocelyn. Thanks. So, Jocelyn mentioned 2,000 volunteers, so I have I'll try to represent my experience, and that it's really speaking for 2,000 people because I do think my own experience is consistent with that. I'd say as a volunteer, I'm really motivated by two things. One is community, the idea of connecting with my classmates, and the idea of building friendships across the year, and that's been very, very powerful for me and all my fellow volunteers. And the second is really an opportunity to go help the alma mater, the place that really made such a difference for me personally, and for all my fellow volunteers. And you can imagine that this year, more than ever, that's been really rewarding, an opportunity to hear the latest of what's happening on campus, engage with the leaders on campus, and provide inputs for the directions moving forward. We happen to have the benefit of having a new president who is a great new president who has explicitly said that connecting with alumni and donors is one of her top priorities and has demonstrated that through hundreds of meetings on campus and off. And so we really have a powerful alignment between motivated volunteers, the need on the campus, current events, and that gives us a chance. My fellow volunteers are also not only soliciting, we take that very seriously, but we're also connecting with alumni in whatever ways we can. That's sometimes on Facebook, on our class lists. It's in person at events on campus or in whatever cities we're in. I think that when you're on one of these boards, your classmates sort of see and they send you notes. Hey, what's going on? You might know. And we're able, because of Jocelyn and the team keeping us informed, to engage really, really fully with our colleagues.
That's great. Volunteers are so critical. Ed, you're doing such great work at Huron and for Yale.
Hey,
So,
that's trying
so
to do it
hard to
all.
Right.
believe.
And I think that, Ed's right. We have such a well-connected community, just like so many do on this call.
Hmm.
And being able to have other voices in that conversation really make a difference, especially during difficult times. That difficult time, you can fill in the blank for what that means for you, for your institution, for your school, for yourself. But there is this comfort level with saying, I'm going to a fellow classmate, a fellow Yalie, a fellow, person from my lacrosse team who I trust. And they also come to me if they know me. And Ed knows, I hope, that if you do get into a difficult conversation where you're like, you know what, I'm not getting to the root of the problem here, that he can come to me then and I can step in, or
Yeah.
any member of the team, that we're going to jump in. It's not about saying, will you please handle every difficult conversation? It's again, working as a team and making sure that we're providing primary sources of information, the right links. Everything's in the public domain these days. It's not as though you have to go find secret information, but not everybody's thinking about where to find it. And that's where Ed and his fellow volunteers really come into play. And also, as a member of the executive committee, like we've asked the executive committee, we have these initiatives we call calls to action, and Ed's been part of that. We're like, here's a call to action. We need your help. And it could be as simple as, these are our top Libons that we haven't heard back from. We need you to do this for us. What do you think? They raise their hand, we put it in Give Campus, and the work is done. And then other things can be more complex.
And I'll just add to that one thing. I mean, you see Jocelyn there, but she's got a great team too.
Mhm.
So my fellow board members are not only engaging with Jocelyn, but also with day-to-day people. When I came on board, I had a one-on-one meeting. Expectations were sort of what my role would be. And so for everyone out there who has a team, no matter what your size, remember you're leveraged, and your team members can help an awful lot.
So, Jocelyn, it's hard to believe, but the end of the fiscal year is almost upon us. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you and your team are focusing on now as you head into June. Did we lose Jocelyn?
We're really thinking about,
Okay.
oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you
Okay,
now.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're heading into June, we're really thinking about how to reach our goals for this year, but also how to reach the goals of the campaign by June of 2026. So I'm going to wrap those two things together because I see it's already 12:25 also. And so when we think about where we are right now, I have to say this is such a great day because the Yale College Alumni Fund, for the first time in a long time, is ahead in donors today, which is just amazing. And it's because of this huge initiative we did in April that included special volunteer outreach challenges. So much work was happening in April to really move the needle on our numbers. And then when we're thinking about dollars, when we're doing our analysis, we can see that we can meet our dollar goals this year through Libons and pledgers. And that's the key to success. So we're working with our fellow gift officers who are assigned, and that's also part of the culture at Yale, which is a culture of collaboration among departments. So we're looking at that. And for Libons, we're looking at their ask amount until June 30th. We're not thinking about what their gift was last year. We're like, what was their ask set at this year? And we're not going to give up on that until probably like 11 p.m. on June 30th. And then we might say, just give whatever you can. But we really want to see them at the level we're hoping for. And that's where we can reach our goals. And in terms of our For Humanity campaign, and that we have a wonderful website if anyone wants to go to it. It's just Yale for Humanity. And we are thinking about how do we get across the finish line by June of 2026. We still have a chunk to go. It's a huge campaign. And there are also two sub goals to this campaign, which is not usual for Yale to have sub goals. one of which is for students, support for students, which includes financial aid and other designations, a really big chunk for that, which will help us to have more available for our generous financial aid policies. And then another is the Alumni Fund. And we have a public goal of $350 million for the Alumni Fund. We've already raised over 310 million from our community of donors. And right now, we are the largest collective gift to the campaign. And for the first time, we had our own public announcement and public opening for the campaign this time, which was separate for the Alumni Fund. That was really wild. It was fun, but it was saying that with confidence that we understand as a university that the vast majority of people who participate in this campaign will do so through the Alumni Fund. And that's the truth for anywhere. So we also set a goal for how many gifts we hoped to receive, and we've received over 300,000 gifts since the start of this campaign through the Alumni Fund. Now, you get counted for every single gift you make. So if it's a recurring gift, that's 12. That's how we're doing it. And that makes it more fun. But it is true that these gifts, 300,000 gifts, that's every person being able to find themselves in this campaign. So as we head towards the end, of course, we want to reach the big number, and it is life-changing for so many different areas of Yale, including our core mission work, which is supporting our students and our faculty. We also want to make sure that those two sub-goals are met, because that is really important. So we'll see what happens, but we're feeling really great about it.
Sounds like you will hit it out of the park.
Yeah,
so I know we've got 1 minute left, but I want to take a quick second to thank you, Jocelyn and Ed, for talking with us. Jocelyn, you have very, very graciously put your contact information right in the corner, and have encouraged people to reach out if you have questions or anything. And the same goes for Ed and for me. So if there are things in follow-up that you're interested in talking to any of us about, please don't hesitate to reach out. This session has been recorded, and so that recording will be available after. In addition to that, this is the third in a series of declining donor count conversations. And so the other two recordings will also be made available to those who registered. So for this session, but again, want to thank both of you. This is just such a great conversation, really important things, really difficult time for many of us. And so these are some really great strategies that a lot of us can take and apply to our own institutions. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.